This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual, and I share my asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So you may hear that noise outside, and this is ideal for this video because this video is all about sometimes you've got to just shovel through the shit. You've got to keep going down the rocky road and know that eventually the rockiness will end. So have you ever gone through something in your life, where your life just feels so chaotic, disorganized? It feels like everything's going wrong, or the majority of things are going wrong. It feels like your life is completely out of control. And no matter what you do, just things, problems and difficulties and challenges, I like to call them, just pile up and pile up and pile up. Well, sometimes we've just got to shovel through that shit and keep going. I wish I could say that it's, better and that you don't have to do that. But unfortunately, life isn't always like that. And social media likes to portray people as having the perfect life and everything being great. But sometimes life isn't great. Sometimes it hits you with a whammy and a double whammy and a triple whammy. And before you know it, you feel like you've had a sledgehammer hit you through the head and maybe even the heart as well. So in case you didn't already know, I've been going through so many challenges, or if I want to say difficulties, since I've come to my new home. For over 2 months now, there's been constant problems in my new home, and it's just one thing after another, majority of which is not anything that's in my control, right? And then there are a few things that are in my control that I haven't been able to do as efficiently, effectively later, which has caused me issues added to the stress. So on social media, we're meant to show our perfect life. We're meant to show only the positive and the good and everything going well. But it's been really tough for me. And it's not just one stress factor. It's when multiple stress factors come together and they just pile on top of each other. This is when it can make you feel very exhausted. It can make you feel like your life is just completely chaotic. And if you're used to having like an organized life in some manner, one in which you feel in control, and then all of a sudden it's just problem after problem after problem, it's really, really hard. Hi, Aidan. Nice to see you. So I'm here to tell you that sometimes life isn't going well. And rather than trying to be saying it's brilliant, it's better just to acknowledge your feelings. Thank you for the hugs. I really appreciate that. It's better to acknowledge your feelings than keep them bottled up and actually say, I'm shoveling the shit right now. The road of my life is really, really rocky. It's not easy. Behind the scenes of this channel lately, I've been so exhausted. I've been so stressed. My stress levels are through the roof. They're the worst, apart from last year. I was going to say they're the worst they've ever been last year because they caused me a lot of problems. But it's got even worse since I moved, which is really bad to say that, right? And I'm thinking that I'm still shoveling shit for the majority of January, but then from February onwards, the rest of the year should run more smoothly, hopefully, and be a lot better because I'm being optimistic. But sometimes it's really hard when you're in the moment of a lot of difficulties piling up on top of each other and stressors to stay positive. Like last night, my mind was in a bad place. My mind doesn't usually get in a bad place these days. Even if things go wrong, it's usually staying pretty good. But last night, it was going to thoughts that I don't like because I haven't had those thoughts for a number of years. And it passed me by and I'm like, I will not let my mind control me like that. I will not let the darkness win, But it's really tough when you just have problem after problem and you feel like, oh, I may as well just give up. What's the point? Because every time I try to do something else happens. And it's like I never, ever have much breathing time or relaxation time. And I don't, even if I'm watching something like a movie, I'm usually doing it while I'm working a lot of the time, or having part movie, part work. It does help split it up, but it's still really, really tough. So when I got back from my parents' place after Christmas, there was then a fault with the air vent system in here. So if you didn't know, before Christmas, not only did I have a gas leak 1 week and the emergency gas services had to come out, just before Christmas, a few days before, The guy tried to fix the boiler again that hadn't been working since I moved in, since the 5th of November. Well, it wouldn't have been working before then, but that's actually when I moved in. And the electrics blew up in the actual gas boiler. You know, when you hear petrol go up in flames and you see like Puff the Magic Dragon or whatever with great big fire coming out of it. It was a bit like that, but very quickly. Like, luckily it didn't stay. It was like whoosh. And I'm like, oh my God, and the carbon monoxide leaked. And this is like really stressful because this is like life threatening. It's not some normal just thing that happens and oh, we can just forget about it. All these type of things on top amount to a lot of traumas because they build on top of each other. And when I think to myself, you know, my life has been in risk in this flat more than one occasion, it's really scary to me. So at the moment I don't have a boiler. They have to get planning permission to put scaffolding up to put a new boiler in because the boiler now cannot be used, right? It can't be used. It's just unusable, right? So I will get a new boiler finally, but I've been asking them for ages, but they wanted to save money. You know, it's all very well them wanting to save money, but it's put my life at risk on more than one occasion. And, you know, that does make me quite angry. I think in life we do have to advocate for ourselves. You know, I think we do have to stick up for ourselves as much as possible. And I think that's not always easy because people tend to, or especially organisations like letting agencies, they tend to think of money. And I'm not saying that money isn't an issue and it's important because obviously they're running a business. But when a person's life is at stake, it's not nice. You know, and even the day before of the boiler breaking up, I just sent them an email to say, please, can you replace the boiler? Because I've got so many problems with it, you know? Oh, you're from the UK too. Good for the UK. Yeah, I live in the UK in Exeter. So yeah, so it's been so stressful. So when I came back from my parents, there was then this problem with the ventilator in the bathroom. And I honestly was worried about that blowing up as well because the electrics just sound off. You know, when you have something like heaving, it's going like this, and it's like run down, and it's just clearly not working properly. And I was really worried because it was next to my bedroom, and I could hear it all throughout the night, and it was so, you know, horrible. So anyway, I got in touch with the letting agency, but they don't work at the weekends. They did respond on it because they tend to respond to emergencies. And so they did get someone to replace the whole thing. So when you tested the extractor fan, it was another part because I couldn't switch the thing off. And the letting agency told me the wrong place. There's a switch above the door in the bathroom. That's what I tried to turn off. It wouldn't turn off. And I didn't realise the switch for it is actually in the hallway. But the switch in the bathroom, I couldn't turn off, and that's because that was faulty, and it was part of the extractor fan system. So they've replaced the whole thing now. But do you know what I mean? It like kept me awake the weekend, and I was worried in case that was going to blow up as well. I know it sounds like quite dramatic, but dramatic stuff's happened here. That's real life, you know? And sometimes we do have to just keep going and shoveling through your shit because it's like, it's never-ending problems. So the printer went yesterday. And I need to print stuff off for my paperwork, for my accounting at the moment. I haven't got all the paperwork, which you could say, yes, it's my fault for not having all the paperwork ready. So I could take the responsibility for that. But I still need to print other stuff out. I've got a hospital appointment next week for a DEXA scan that I was actually referred for back in about July last year. So I chased it up because I'm like, what's going on with it? And, you know, now they've got me an appointment. So, but they wanted me to print something out because I've got my x-ray results back from my toe. And it's good in the sense they said it's not got a break in it, but it's still it's stuck out. The bone's still stuck out under the skin. So I was like, what on earth is going on? You know, I mean, Daisy in chat, very sorry you're experiencing problems, but we must be grateful for having accommodation. Yes, this is true, because I was going to potentially be made homeless, where I previously still being here. I do actually remind myself of that. Like, I try to remind myself that I'm very, very grateful. But obviously, I could have died twice with the gas leak and the electrics blowing up with the carbon monoxide. So it's put my, it put my life in jeopardy, which is really, really bad. But Daisy said so many homeless in my city in Manchester. Yeah, I mean, I do think about the positives as well. Like usually I've got a really positive mindset the majority of the time. But this time, having over 2 months of continual problems all the time and workmen in and out of my home means that I can't get much of my own stuff done. I don't really like people in my home as it is, but I'm constantly having to have people come in my home. Like when I first moved in, the night I moved in, there was a leak in the bathroom, for example. So, oh, thank you for subscribing. Appreciate you. I'm from Sowbury Bridge, Yorkshire. Daisy says Aidan. Oh, my family's from Yorkshire, by the way, originally up north. So I just thought I'd put that out there because I'm looking at people in chat. But yeah, so obviously I've done videos before and said how it's important to still be grateful for what you've got, still appreciate what you've got. But there are sometimes, I'm sure we can all relate, when you can't see as much stuff that's good in your life because you keep getting bombarded with problems and they build up and build up. So your focus gets detracted on the things that are not going well rather than focusing on the things that we are going, that is going well. Daisy, I understand you're anxious. Anxiety can encompass all parts of day-to-day stuff. Yeah, I mean, I have an anxiety condition. I don't know if you know that, but that's one of my disabilities. I've got 2 unseen disabilities, one's fibromyalgia and one's anxiety. So yeah, but I mean, this would make anyone anxious, the stuff the stuff that's gone on. I've had problems with a boiler since I've moved in, and it's always been a problem. When you've got a gas leak, then you're worried it's going to leak again, which obviously it can't leak now. It's completely off. The fuse is out. The gas is turned off because it's dangerous. It's got a do not use sign on it, and it leaks carbon monoxide. So these things are not good for anyone to have, and when you've had bad experiences in your home like that, and things not working properly, then of course it's going to make you more worried. It's like having PTSD stuff, like when you have a lot of traumas and you have them over and over again and things you don't expect. It's like, I don't want to be in my own home sometimes, because it's like it's too scary to be here in case something else goes wrong. And so luckily the extractor fan's been replaced now, so this is much better for me. It's quieter and it's working properly now, so I don't think I need to worry about that anymore because that seems all good. Oh, Daisy, no, I didn't know, but I'm a nurse. Right, yeah. I mean, I have generalized anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed with that in 2010 officially. I've had it since birth. I have pre-birth trauma, if we really want to dive into all that pre-birth trauma. So yeah. But yeah, I have an anxiety condition, so this doesn't help. But having all this stuff, constant problems all the time with something, it's like I'm having to email the letting agency all the time. It's just horrible. And I think it's good to actually get your emotions out and express. Sometimes you just don't feel as good as you should do. You know what I mean? Because far too much society teaches us to bottle our feelings up, to put on a brave face, to just look at the positives all the time. And I try to do that, but there are moments that I want you to know, human to human being, because I'm not a robot, I'm not a machine, that there are times, especially late when I'm really struggling. I can't do as many streams at the moment as I would like to do. I usually like to stream on this channel daily. I can't do that at the moment because I've got too much going on. Even today, I've had such a busy scheduled day. Like the printer, the printer was meant to come today, but it didn't, which is partly my fault, or a lot of my fault, because I didn't check the address. The address is right, the postcode is wrong. My computer auto-filled it to my old postcode, so that is my fault. I take responsibility for that. But at the end of the day, I had to phone them up and try and sort that out. It wasn't my fault the printer packed up. But it's kind of, it is my fault, apart from I couldn't have checked it well enough. The address of where I was sending it to. By the time I realised it was too late, they were shut at Printerland. So, so I had to sort that out this morning with them. So I should be getting it tomorrow now, because I've got to fill in some paperwork for the hospital and stuff like that. So, yeah. But that's one thing that's more, it's more in my control. So, yeah, and I got a top wrecked, which is basically, you could say, my own fault, because I use a cleaning product that I didn't realise, and it has bleach in it. But I've used that product loads of times and never had a problem, but I got it on my clothes this time, and a lot of it. And I didn't even realise it was I should have looked more, but I've never had a problem before. I cleaned this whole place when I first came here in clothes, and I never got any stuff then. So although I might have got a tiny little bit on one top maybe, but in general, like, I've been cleaning for months here and it's like never had affected me. But anyway, that's kind of my fault. So I'm trying to, but it's just like, when you are stressed and when you've got a lot of stressors going on, your mind doesn't think as clearly. So therefore you're more able to, or likely to, make mistakes yourself. And I, some of these, like the printer postcode, that's in my control, really, apart from, I think, my Mac auto filled it to the wrong postcode. It gave my old postcode with my new address. The address was right, the postcode was wrong. But I should have double checked it, but I didn't. So that's my fault. So, but anyway, I sorted it out, but it took ages because I had to call Printerland and then they couldn't deal with it straight away. And then I had to call the DHL. I couldn't even get hold of DHL e-commerce for like over an hour. And then I end up writing a message. And anyway, Printerland sorting it out. They're gonna retract that one and send me a new one because they said it's easier. So, and then I had an inspector come out for my sliding doors because I've got accidental damage cover with that. And I need that to put my clothes in because there's still stuff in bags. There's lots of boxes in the spare bedroom, which is more like a storage room. So the first guy that came out to inspect it, as I had someone come out before Christmas, they just decided as soon as they walked through the door that they wouldn't cover it under the insurance. They didn't, before they even looked at anything. So I had to make a complaint because it's really important, even if you're stressed, to advocate for your needs. I have to say this, right? It's very important to advocate for your needs. Advocating for your needs helps with self-confidence, self-esteem, self-belief, and it takes your personal power back when you're feeling quite chaotic and your life is out of sync, out of balance, So anyway, I did say I made a complaint about the last person because his whole attitude really sucked, to be honest. And anyway, I made a complaint, and then they originally declined based on that person's report, although there was something he didn't tell them in his report, and I brought it to their attention saying, he wasn't good, and I don't think he told you this. And so that made them doubt him. And then I appealed to have another engineer. So this engineer came out today. He was totally different attitude. Whatever happens, he was really, really nice, right? So the other guy's attitude, he came in, he's like, oh, we won't cover this. Even before he looked at it, didn't have a discussion really about what happened, didn't really want to know, and just took pictures and then went out, right? And this guy, right, great customer service. And so I do, like, when I'm going through difficult times, I do really notice good, kind-hearted things. And I think this really helps when you've got people, even if it's just little bits in your struggles, that show you kindness and caringness. So, for example, this guy, he did take his shoes off, which I didn't ask him to do, which was really thoughtful. He came in, his demeanour was completely different to the other guys. He was really in a responsive, open, friendly mood, not over friendly, just friendly enough to be nice. And Daisy's off now. have a nice day, Daisy. And so yeah, it's just like, he came in and he listened to everything I said, because I've got accidental cover. I don't usually claim for accidental damage because I don't usually have accidental damage cover. I have to say this is accidental damage. So usually it wouldn't be covered under normal practices, but because I paid for an insurance policy, it's meant to be covered. Anyway, to cut long story short, he listened to everything I said about how it happened, and it was an accident, and it's just two pieces this time that I focused on, the main pieces that were damaged. And so he said he's going to try, he's going to do a report. Hopefully I'll get 2 new pieces, and if not, at least he advised me that I can still use the sliding wardrobes as it is. So to me, when you've got, life is struggling and you've got difficulties, any kindness, and you can do this with other people, it's being kind and compassionate and caring in your mannerism. It goes a long way. Like, I have to deal with workmen coming in and out of here a lot, and I'm kind to them. I'm nice to them, even though, like, the guy, for example, the guy who's gas safety engineer, like, approved, right, who did the boiler, right, he knocked something off in the boiler that caused water to flood everywhere in the boiler, right? I asked him, do you want me to turn the electrics off? He said no. Within the next 2 minutes, of course, it blew the whole electrics up in there. I wonder why. Because it's water mixing electrics, and it's like he's a gas safety approved engineer. And it makes you wonder, like, why does that happen? Like, surely they should know the electrics and water don't mix. And so if you carry on working in that environment, of course it's really going to blow up, isn't it? I would have thought, you know? But anyway, that's what did happen. But, you know, I wasn't horrible to him about it. I was more worried and concerned to see if he was going to be okay. If he, because, you know, he was like, whoa, like this, you know? So, because of obviously the blowing up. And so I was more concerned about him. And he did say sorry, which is nice, because he's a guy who strikes me as the type of person that doesn't usually say sorry to people, if you know what I mean. He comes across as he's quite, he likes drinking and smoking and all that type of stuff, and he's a bit older guy than you'd usually get in a company. Like, he's 3 years off retirement, for example. But, you know, I treat him with kindness when he comes into my home, because I want to get on with the people who come into my home, even though I don't usually have strangers in my home. So I try to get on with people. So it's really good if you can, like, even if you're having difficult times, that you can try to obviously still be kind to people. So the guy who came to inspect the sliding doors, he was very empathetic, and he listened to what I said, and he actually took on board what I said, and he gave me advice. He said, even if they don't replace the parts, you can actually still use this product. It'll still be safe. And the other guy did nothing of the sort. His attitude was really bad. He didn't give me any advice, so it was useless. So whether I get the parts or not, I'm more happy with that service. Do you know what I mean? But I've still had to wait all day for this guy to come in, and the printer I've got waiting all day again tomorrow. So there's a lot of waiting in. Like, when the workmen come, they don't have keys to my flat. Even though originally they told me they did, they don't have them. So I have to be here all the time. And when they finally get a new replacement boiler, it's going to take 2 whole days for them to do it. So it's just constant disruptions, you know. And I got medical appointments to go to this week. I got to go back to the doctor about my toe, because although the x-ray showed that I don't have a break in it, I don't know why then the bone is stuck out under the skin. It doesn't make no sense to me. So I want to get the x-rays to double checked to see if it has broken or not, because they said it's not. But I've been misdiagnosed 4 times in the past with breaks. 3 people last year all misdiagnosed me with a back strain or sprain, and I ended up with 2 broken bones in my spine, which I'm still recovering from. And previously to that, in a few years ago, 2022, I got told I hadn't got an ankle break, and then someone phoned me from the hospital to say I was right, there was an ankle break, and the previous person assessed the x-ray, they got it wrong. So I've had 2 scenarios of broken bones where the actual medical professionals have been wrong. So, yeah, it's an ouch, Aidan. Yeah. So, yeah, it's, so what's happened, because I've got a problem with my foot, because the shoe cabinet fell on my foot, it's resulted in problems with my toes. And so when I went, that's why I went to the x-ray, department. But it's come back as though I don't have a broken bone. But I don't understand why I got so much pain in it, and I can physically feel the bone stuck out at the side. It makes no sense to me. So I've got a point with the doctor next week, because again, you have to advocate for yourself. I cannot say how important it is, even if you're stressed and think, oh, people aren't giving a shit about you, or problem after problem, no one cares or whatever. You've got to care enough about yourself to be able to advocate for yourself. And to actually say, you know, like, this isn't acceptable, or I need to investigate this further, or I need to be seen more. So I'm seeing a doctor at the surgery, even though I was told, oh, you can't see a doctor because there's none free. I'm like, well, we can phone you. I said, it's no good phoning me. I want a doctor to actually see what I'm talking about and feel the area that I'm talking about, because a phone call's going to do nothing. The whole point is it's visibly stuck out at an angle. And I don't understand why, if it's not broken, why it's like that. So I need someone to physically examine it. And so anyway, they've got me an appointment now. Oh, we can fit you in next week. We've got 1 appointment, funnily enough. So yeah, so my point is though, even though it's a struggle time for me, even though it's difficult for me, one of the skills I'm trying to learn more and more is how to advocate for my own needs. And this is something that a lot of us aren't taught. We're not taught as children. A lot of the time when we grow up, we're designed to put other people's needs before our own. And I'm not talking about being selfish, as in just thinking of yourself and absolutely no one else, but I'm talking about advocating for your needs. You know what I mean? Like I have to email the letting agency and say my needs. They're not always listened to. Sometimes they're listened to, and other times they're not listened to. Thank you, Aidan, for saying you care. You know, and so even though we've got struggles in life, we still need to advocate for ourselves rather than thinking no one cares. We've got to care enough about ourselves to make sure we're caring about ourselves, you know. And my mind did go a bit dark. Yesterday I had a dark thought pass my mind, and because I used to suffer with depression years ago, which ended in 2012, and then I had something really bad happen in my life at the end of 2020. It was a pandemic that year, but it wasn't actually the pandemic that was a problem. I'm not going to go completely into that because, you know, I can't really talk about all that. But anyway, it was a really bad time in my life, and I never thought my mind would go dark again. But every so often, if I've got like really, you know, like bad times at the moment, I'd say, because it's just like I feel so energy drained, like, oh my God, should I give up? And then I'm like, no, you don't give up, Sandra. That you see that and you observe that thought and you're like, let it pass and think that's not a good thought to have. I'm not going to act on that thought. I'm just going to let that thought go. And because I've suffered depression for years, up until 2012, just like you have to exercise your body regularly to keep it in shape, if that's what you like to do, then you have to exercise your mind. You have to exercise your mental health. And this means that you have to be constantly exercising your positivity, and you have to be constantly trying to keep a positive mind all the time. But the problem is, because my life's been so chaotic lately and it feels out of balance and out of control, because a lot of the things have been out of my control, especially in my own home, which has been really scary. I want to feel safe and secure in my own home, and I haven't felt that. I felt that at the beginning, and then the problems just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So despite the fact I had problems in the beginning, I still felt more safe and secure here than the previous place I lived in. And then I didn't, you know, and so it's been really, really tough. And, you know, sometimes I'm just like, you know, like last night I had this thought, and I've learned in life that I have to understand that sometimes, you know, like negative thoughts or dark thoughts come occasionally in my mind. This is the honest truth. But I have to say to myself, I'm not going to let the darkness win. I'm not going to let my mind go back into that really bad state, the depressive state. I used to be suicidal years ago, so I'm not going to let it go back into that state, even if I have a thought of like, should I just give up? I'm like, no, that's a negative thought. It's a thought I had years ago. It's a pattern I had years ago. I'm not going to let that take hold. I'm just going to see that, yeah, I'm really, obviously, to even have a thought cross my mind like that, I must be feeling really shit. And this is a time where I need to shovel through the shit in order to get to the other side, the clear path. And sometimes we have to ride the storm of life, right? Sometimes we just have to be kind and caring to ourselves and get through each day as best we can and try to find any positives in the day. Like, for example, when the guy came to look at the sliding wardrobes, I noticed his attitude was good. So when someone is like that, of course, it shines out as a really good thing to me, because if my life's quite difficult at the moment, when someone's kind and caring and thoughtful, especially in business, when they, you know, a lot of businesses these days aren't, their customer service is rubbish, isn't it? Then, you know, it makes a huge difference. Like when I came back from my parents, when I actually came back in their car, the shopping trolley broke. I haven't told you about that. The wheels came off in the middle of the road. Luckily, it's a cul-de-sac where I live, so someone could have come round them, but it was as my dad's car was parked, it was like, you know, rolled off, came off the back, the part of the wheels came off the back behind it. There was no one behind him, right? And luckily it came off just outside my flat, but it meant trying to drag it up. But this guy came along, who I think is a taxi driver, and he said, would you like some help? And I said, yes, please. And he literally carried it all the way up to the second floor where I live for me, this shopping trolley, because both wheels are broken. I was going to have to drag the metal across the floor because it's too heavy for me to lift. Bless him, says Aidan. Yeah, and you know, he took it right to my door, put it in my flat, and said Happy New Year. And kindness like that, you know, it's good any time of year, kindness, but when you're going through a shit time and you see something like that and you witness it and it's directly impacted you, you just feel so much more grateful and you feel like, oh my God, there's kindness in the world. And I know there's kindness in the world, but it's important to take note of these things, because when we have got our mind's not in a good place, sometimes all we can see is the not so good stuff, right? So I have still got enough awareness about myself and my life to know when something's good and something's positive and something's kind. But mental health and staying in a positive mental attitude is a constant mental workout. And sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. Sometimes it's just so energy draining, like one problem on top of another. It's like this all the time. It's like, when do I actually rest? When do I fully rest and think, I can rest now? At the moment, I can't do that because I've got more appointments this week. Like, I've got one doctor's appointment next week, one health appointment as well. Sorry, doctor's appointment, one DEXA scan at the hospital. So the DEXA scan, I was meant to have I was referred for it July last year for potential osteoporosis, which I hope to God I don't have. And they did a blood test for cancer and a blood test, a blood test for blood cancer, a blood test for osteoporosis. And it came out negative, thank God. But they wanted to do the DEXA scan because I have had my left ankle broke twice, same place actually, but worse the second time. And obviously I had the back break last year, which I think is normal reasons. There's reasons which is, it just happened, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the way it happened, but the way my back happened is very unusual. It's not normal. And so the doctors at the hospital said, as a precautionary measure, we want to do the blood test and then the DEXA scan. But because I've had my foot, my toes, specifically on my right foot, x-rayed lately. I was chasing up about the DEXA scan saying, what's happening with that? They hadn't even got any record of it, even though my surgery had and my physio had. So I emailed my surgery, and then they've referred me, and I think they had a cancellation next week, so I'm going next week. This is like a scan where you have to be, I think, still for the 30 minutes, which with me is very difficult to be still, because I like to be doing something the majority of the time, but I like to be doing good somethings, not just like what I'm doing now. So at the moment, I'm very aware that I'm not doing like joyful stuff. I'm not really doing that much joyful stuff as I usually do. I'm not going out much, even though I'm an extrovert, because I've got to stay in for deliveries and workmen and inspections and things to be repaired or replaced. So, it restricts me more. I've got my accounts to finish, which I haven't finished. Yes, I know that's on me, but, it's stressful on top of everything else that I didn't foresee coming. So yeah, and my printer's still working, and so it just becomes like problematic. And the fact that I damaged a new top, I'm upset about it. I actually spent hours trying to get bleach out of the top, because I didn't realise that I bleached my top by accident by a product I used. It was a mold remover, because I've moved to this place, right, but the windows, there's 3 windows in here, and they got like mold and mildew all over them. And they literally every day have condensation. And they have water pouring off them. So I open them now. It's open now. But I close them at night because obviously it's cold because it's winter. And then by the morning, there's just like water all over the windowsills. And I spoke to the electrical guy the other day, because he services a lot of the apartments here. A lot of the flats. And I said, is it like this all over? He said, yeah. I said, what do? Just wipe it down all the time? He's like, that's all you can do. And I'm like, why is this? Because it's metal buildings. He's like, yeah. So before I even moved here, I didn't realise that the mobile signal's a problem here as well, because they're made of steel, these buildings, which is why he thinks this condensation problem which is why he thinks the condensation problem is so bad, because of the metal building. But it also stops my mobile working. So I've constantly got that problem while I'm here, that the majority of the time my mobile doesn't work. And when a company today was trying to phone me from the Printerland, his message didn't get to me, voice message didn't even appear on my phone till 2 hours later. And I've got a landline here, and most people go to my mobile first. So a lot of the time my mobile doesn't work. Text messages come through late. Voice messages come through late. Sometimes the phone doesn't work at all. So that's constant problems as well. And I never had that struggle in the last place. And most people would be really thinking, oh my God, mobile phone not working. It's pretty much a disaster. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what was happening in my life at the moment, But I do try to hold on to the good things. I mean, before Christmas, this channel went over 1 million views, which I did make sure I celebrated, because I've learned in life you have to celebrate your successes, even if you'll squeeze it into a short time frame. You really have to celebrate any successes, especially when your mind's not good. I mean, I want to get back to my writing. My writing is the love of my life. It's my pride and joy, as well as helping asexuals, obviously. And I haven't been able to do that because I've constantly got more urgent stuff that comes in first, or workmen in and out. And it's just a nightmare. So sometimes you do have to shovel through your shit. You have to realize that if your life isn't in balance, it's feeling chaotic, try and just grab some little moments when you can of well, even if you can't fully relax, then moments of joy that you can do. You know, like last night I was doing my accounts, but I was also, because I had a negative mind for a bit, I decided to put a movie on. And at the moment, one of the things that helps my mind is romantic Christmas movies. I've still got my Christmas stuff up, by the way, even though it's like January the 9th when I'm going live at the moment. Can you see my Christmas tree? I'm like, is anyone else still feeling the Christmas vibe? Because one is I haven't really got time to take it down at the moment, but two is I want to keep it up for a bit longer, because I didn't put it up till really late last year now, sorry. And it's like, well, I still want it to be up there for a little bit more longer, because I didn't get to experience the full effects of it for very long before going to my parents over Christmas and New Year. So I want to have it up for a bit longer. It makes me smile, you know, brings a bit of joy. But I do realise I have to take it down at some point. But the Christmas lights in my city have been up as well still. So yeah. But my point of this video is to show you that life isn't always perfect. And if you're really struggling now, I understand what you're going through, because we do struggle as human beings. We're not infallible. We're not robots. We're not machines. We can't always think positive 365 days a year, every single minute of the year. And if you're going through multiple stresses, the stresses build up and build up to become like trauma. And then it ends up becoming a more dramatic feature in your life, because it's a compounding effect. I talked about this in another video. It's a compounding effect of multiple stressors piling up on you, so that it feels like you're completely out of balance. It like overwhelms you. It's a bit like a brick house, feeling like the bricks are falling in on you, you know? And it feels like it's really hard to get out of sometimes. And sometimes all we have to do is say to ourselves, you know, we're doing the best we can with the resources we can, with the things that are in our control. Because if a lot of stuff is out of our control, then we can't control it. So we have to try and focus on the things we can control. But obviously the things we can control might be affected a lot by the things we can't control. So we have to give ourselves some grace. Like, I know I'm not at my best at the moment. I'd love to give you my best Sandra version, but I know I'm not at my best at the moment, right? I know that my mind's not as good as it should be. I'm not as positive as I should be, even though I listen to positive affirmations still. And I do, like last night, I was listening to a lot of positive affirmation music still, and trying to listen to music that that brings me joy, should I say, rather than makes me have joy. But it's both, really, you know? So the things I'm doing to help myself is what last night I realised you've just got to watch a movie that's funny and romantic, that's going to make you feel good. Because if my mind's going to dark places, I'm like, your health and well-being is more important than anything. I felt guilty because I hadn't streamed last night, but I'm like, you've got to just understand that your audience will know that you're just going through a difficult time at the moment, and that you'll be there for them. But if you're exhausted yourself, Sandra, and you're stressed out and you're not feeling good, you can't give your best to them. So you need to make sure you're just, you know, chilling out a bit. Even though I wasn't totally chilling out, because I was still doing my accounts in between watching the movie, so I wasn't fully paying attention to the movie, but it was a funny movie. I noticed my physiology changing. I was laughing because it's a really funny movie that I watched, so I was laughing. And I was feeling good about the movie. And as I watched that, I noticed that my mind started to get better. I started to think, oh, I want to be in life. It's really good. I love life more. And, you know, there is fun times ahead. I know there's fun times. I usually have fun, but it's like I'm not really going out as much as well because of my injury to my foot. So that's more restrictive. It's holding back the amount of exercises I can do for my back injury as well. So I was doing really, really well with my back injury. And I thought I wasn't going to have to see the physio again unless I absolutely had to. But now I have to. I've got an appointment to see her this month as well. because my foot injury has caused problems with doing my exercises that I need to sustain my strength for my back injury recovery. I'll always have to do a lot of exercises now to keep my back strong because I've broken 2 bones in the spine, and it's a lot of me because I've got fibromyalgia, so it hurts more anyway. But because I've got a damaged foot, I can't do all the exercise for back. So one of the exercises I have to do for my back usually is stand on one leg. And I'm meant to do this on both the legs, but I can't do it on that leg. That's how I found out I got a really bad problem with the foot. Even though I know it was injured, I didn't realise the extent of the injury. You know, I had the shoe cabinet fall across the whole foot of the right foot, but it's actually the big toe that was evidently a lot worse at the time because it was visibly bruised and blood under the skin and stuff like that and swelling. Whereas the other toe, that's the current problem one, overall, it wasn't so visible at that time. But when I was trying to stand on one leg, I couldn't balance properly, and that's when I started to get horrendous pain in it. And then when I realised it's the bone stuck out, I'm like, under the skin, it's not protruding through the skin. So that's been really difficult. So when you've got like difficulties with like anxiousness because your home's not safe or hasn't been safe the majority of the time since you've lived in it, and then when you've got problems with your physicality because of accidents which, you know, have been out of your control, well, they you know, you didn't foresee them coming. I mean, obviously, if I'd never bought the shoe cabinet, that would have never happened. But I didn't know the shoe cabinet would have faulty runners and the drawer would just come off its runners. That was something I didn't foresee. And I don't think many people would foresee. I've got other drawers in other cabinets and they don't come off their runners, right? It's a fault with the drawer system. And I have reported it to manufacturer. And so all these things, they do build up. And what happens in life is if we get out of balance and we have like lots of stresses and negative things, in order to counteract that, we have to have a lot of positive things come and, you know, kind of eke into the negative things so they drown them out or at least balance them. But because at the moment I haven't got much time to myself and it's constant problems piling up, it's less time for those positive moments, less time for the joyous moments than I would usually have. It's less time living in the positive and a more time living in the negative, which is never a good thing because it's more things that I have to deal with and I have to get it done. There's deadlines that things need to be done by. There's appointments to go to. There's urgency. So it puts a great degree of pressure on me, as well as being difficult with the sleeping. I usually like to sleep in the morning to afternoon and then go to bed at 4 a.m. So I usually like to go to bed at 4 a.m. and wake up at midday. That's my 8 hours sleep and it works. I'm like on American time, if you like. And that really works for me. But when I'm having to usually I can't sleep till about 4 a.m. anyway. So when I go to sleep at 4 a.m., it was 4:35 a.m. before I even stopped doing my counts this morning. And then I went to sleep for 4 something hours there because I had to be up again for someone coming. So my whole sleep is like a lot less because I have to get up early for people coming, which is not my usual way of living. So when you've got an imbalance there, you've got to remind yourself in your head, like, this is not your usual state of mind. Like, I feel disconnected more from myself at the moment. I'm usually at one with God and the universe because I'm a spiritual person. But at the moment, I feel more disconnected from them. I call them, call it what you like, or whatever you believe in or don't believe in, right? I'm more disconnected from them and I'm more disconnected from myself. When you're disconnected from yourself, it means that you haven't got such a good connection with your mind and you're not able to change your life around as easily as you would be able to do if you were in your right mind, if you know what I mean, if you were connected to yourself. And I find that I get a disconnect from myself if I'm not doing a lot of stuff I enjoy that fills my soul up, right? In a way, this is a good period to reflect on like what is good in life and what could I do more of to inject more positivity. To me, it's quite obvious, but it's like I can't do all that stuff at the moment because I have to attend appointments. I have to do things for legal deadlines. You know, I can't say too much, but, you know, with my injury, I have like contacted a solicitor about that. I can't go into legal details on this channel. I'm not allowed to do that, right? It's confidential. But, you know, if you go and look into legal things about accidents, it means you've got legal deadlines and paperwork that has to be in and stuff like that. That's all I can say. So that adds stress. But why should you do that? Because it's advocating for your needs. And if there's an accident that's not your fault, then you should pursue something like that. You know, it's not easy. It adds to the stress. But then if you've got problems way down the line and things are still affecting you and you didn't try to pursue something like that, you're doing yourself a disfavour, really. So it's better to try and go down that path and at least explore that, even if it doesn't come to anything, you know. But even for that, for exploring things legally, you have to fill in legal paperwork to explore things after you've had initial conversations, you know. I'm not going to go into all that, but you can understand what I'm saying, I think. So this adds a sense of urgency with paperwork, a sense of urgency with legality stuff. So when you've got this, you have to put that first. And really, you should be putting yourself first and your own health and your own well-being. And so when you are so bombarded with stuff that you have to get done, that's not what makes you happy, that doesn't bring you that much joy, that actually adds to your stress, but you've got to work through the stress, that's the only thing you can do, is try and take little bit of moments for yourself whenever you can to do something that makes you happy, even if it's a short period of time, whether it's getting a favourite item of food, whether it's just actually busting through the tasks you have to do to get a proportion of it done to make yourself less stressed, whether that's messaging a friend, whether that's just going out for a walk or doing some shopping. And people don't realise I do a lot of shopping because I have food allergies and intolerances, and I don't have a car, and I have 37 steps to get up to get to my home, and I have to pull a shopping trolley up 37 steps. So it's a nightmare, and I've got bad injured foot at the moment, so it takes longer, so it's more hard work. So my physiology is having harder time at the moment. So when your mind is having mental health stress and anxiety from problems building up, and then when you've got physical breaks that you're recovering from in your back and injury to the foot, you know, all these things build up, and including all the like gas boiler that the electrics blew up in, and then it's a ventilator. Obviously, first of all, it was a bath that was leaking, and so all this builds up and builds up. So I want you to know that if you're going through shit right now, if you're really having a difficult time and everyone's been out partying for the new year and they're saying what a wonderful new year it is, it can make you feel a bit like, well, I wish I was having a good new year, right? Or when is it going to get better for me? But we have to just keep remembering that this time shall pass, even if it seems to be ages, because it's been over 2 months now. That's why it's getting to me more. I'm like, how much more can I take? 2 months, over 2 months of non-stop problems pretty much in this place. Like every single day there's an issue. I mean, this would wear the best of the people down in the world. Do you know what I mean? It's just like hard. It's very, 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 very hard. And so I think we have to acknowledge our feelings, not repress and suppress them, put our hand up and saying, hey, I might need a bit of help. And I actually do see a therapist, but it was before this happened in my life that it was after I just moved that I was on a waiting list. And it was after I just moved that I ended up seeing the therapist. But, you know, I haven't really talked so much about, I have talked a lot about the problems, but it's more talking. Do you know what I mean? I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, which is a lot of the time to do with like a loving life, not just relationships. And I find that really effective in there for help and advice. But when you're with a therapist, I can talk to them, but it doesn't offer practical solutions, you know, because therapists aren't meant to tell you answers to your problems. They're meant to just listen to you. Whereas I'm a type of person that actually gets on better in life when people are offering practical solutions. Of course, I can offer myself a mound of practical solutions at the moment, in terms of like listen to positive affirmations, listen to positive music, watch positive movies. I am doing some of that as much as I can do. But the problem is my life's out of balance at the moment. And I think sometimes people actually just want virtual hugs. They just want empathy if their life is really bad and difficult at that point in time for them. So I noticed as a society, something that can be quite toxic is if people all the time believe that people need fixing just because they're going through a rough patch in their life. Unfortunately, it gets to the stage where you can become worried about putting on social media, oh, I've got all these problems going on, because then someone comes along and wants to try and fix you. I don't see me as the problem. I just see my circumstances are difficult at the moment, and I'm doing the best I can at the time. And instead, I'd rather have like the support of people. Like my best friend's really good. I'll say, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm so sorry there's another problem. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I'm so sorry. I know it must be so difficult for you because it's just one problem on top of another for you. And that feels very validating. It feels amazing to have a best friend like this. Very validating. It really makes me feel listened to and seen and heard. And it really makes me feel like good that I've got someone who's just being understanding and caring, you know. And sometimes that's all we want. We don't want some people to come along and fix us. So, because I could come and say to me as an outsider, oh, you should do this, that, and the other. Because I know things that I should be doing to improve my situation. And you might be like, well, why don't you do it then? Because of all the difficulties and problems that's actually stopping me doing a lot of the things that I need to do to feel better. Because, you know, there's only so many hours in the day, and when you're having to deal with constant problems and urgency, you have to put them first, even though it's not in your best interest in the sense that you should be having joy and fun with your life. Life isn't always joy and fun. Sometimes you have to deal with the nitty-gritty in life, and you have to deal with it repetitively, multiple times, all the time for days and weeks, right? And that's the situation. It's like, you know, I do make sure I self-date though. Even on Sunday, I've been making sure I self-date. And then I usually come back home. But I do go out to the cinema. And because I promised myself, and I will keep that promise to myself, that I will self-date. Because I need to trust myself and believe in myself and grow my self-esteem and self-confidence. So because that is a date I have with myself, I will not let myself down. Even if I'm really tired, even if I'm really stressed. You know, that time is good for me. But it's almost like I go to that time in the cinema, I feel really happy and relaxed. And as soon as it's over, it's great. But that's it. I'm back to like all the problems again, right? So sometimes what I'm saying is all we need from other people is empathy, not to think we need fixing, not to think that we're the actual sole crux of the problem. Sometimes we just have to have compassion for others, that circumstances are shit sometimes for people. They're not great. They are problematic. They're really difficult. And I think the world would be a better place if we stopped trying to fix everyone all the time and we actually understood their situation by trying to put ourselves, in their basically shoes. You know, try to think like, what is their life like now? Because when we're in a good state, when I'm in a good positive frame of mind, yeah, I try to be empathetic towards others. But obviously it's harder for me to understand their situation because I'm not in their shoes. Now I'm in the shoes of having a really difficult time at the moment. Other people can't see my life. They can't see what problems. They might be just like, oh, what's she blabbing on about? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, oh, another problem. Oh, she's just being negative or something. But actually, I'm usually quite a positive person. But I am struggling at the moment to be positive all the time. Because it's just problem after problem after problem. They build up and it's hard. And all I keep telling myself is that you just got to shovel through the shit, Sandra. I think January is still going to be a rocky month for me because there's still things that need to be sorted out that are beyond my control, a lot of it, and that have to be done. And so the attitude of shoveling through shit is literally a figurative amount, you know, sentence or whatever you want to say. It's figuratively speaking, that's what I'm trying to say. I can't find the right words at the moment because my brain is not working as effectively as it usually would because of all the stress. That's what stress does to you, right? That's what we have to acknowledge. When we're really stressed and we're finding it hard to function, it's because we get overwhelmed by the amount of problems. And what I'm trying to say is, unless you're in someone else's shoes, you can't possibly see all those problems. You don't see all these problems that I have on this channel because a lot of the time I don't talk about them. I just get on with my day, and my day is like boom, boom, boom. It's like, do this, do that, do that, do that. And so it's like there's not much spare time or any spare time. It's like boom, 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 boom. Like, do this now, do that now, do this now, do that now, do. Sleep whenever you can. Find time to sleep. Sleep for a few hours, up again. Do this, phone this person, email this person, do this, do that. And it's just so chaotic. and unbalanced in my life. And, chaos and unbalanced stuff is not good, especially when it's a lot of it. So what I'm trying to say is hang on in there if you're in a similar situation, because it is difficult sometimes. People don't understand our own personal circumstances. People don't see everything we have to deal with. They only see parts of our life. If someone was in my shoes doing everything that I have to do daily, I think they'd be absolutely exhausted and worn out and stressed as well. Because it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's hard for me as a person who's usually positive, let alone someone, or how I used to be, who used to be very negative. If I wasn't even positive at all and hadn't done a lot of work on myself over the years, it would be even more difficult to handle this time now. But all I have to keep reminding myself is this won't be forever. This time shall pass, and just keep shoveling through the shit to get to the clear path. Sometimes you've got to be like a bulldozer and keep trying to plow through the shit of life in order to see a clear path. But the problem is when you can't see a clear path, or when obstacles keep coming in the way, or challenges is a more positive way of phrasing it, it's hard to see the end of the road where you need to get to your end goal, because all these things like keep piling in the middle of the road. And it's like you go down the road and then, oh look, there's a meteorite coming, boing. That's what it feels like sometimes in life, isn't it? This meteorite goes bang in the middle of a road. You're like, I can't go that direction now. I have to go around it. It's going to take me longer to go around it. And then another, rock falls off a cliff, bang in front of you. I'm like, damn it, I've got to go around that one now. And then someone comes in and cuts you up in the road, and you're like, my God, what's going on? And then the heavens open, there's lightning striking your car, and you're like, oh my Lord, what's going on? Why is the lightning striking my car? This is an analogy, right? The lightning strikes your car, like, I can't use the car now. I got to take it to the garage and get it fixed or get a new car. This has stopped me doing what I was going to do and go on my path in life. And then you go to the garage and the garage is shut. Someone's off sick and someone's in hospital. So there's no one at that garage. And then you've got to get another garage to do the thing, right? This is an analogy of how it feels right now in my life. And I'm sure some of you are probably going through this right now as well. It just feels like you're on a road, and whatever you do is just things piling on the road to stop you from going straight forward. And you have to go around the thing, over the thing, divert off to something else, and then that diversion takes you off to another diversion, and you're not on your path. And this is how I feel like when you're not on your path, and when you're off your path, it feels like you're disconnected from yourself. I don't feel totally connected to myself at the moment. I feel like a disconnect. I feel like Sandra and Sandra aren't at one. I've got like the me and I've got the soul me. And when me and the soul me are together, it's amazing. I feel confident. I am still very confident, I guess, because obviously, I'm confident in the way I'm advocating for my needs and stuff like that. But I feel a disconnect between myself and my soul because I'm not living my happy place. I'm not doing my writing that I usually do. Oh, I need to drink. I'm not doing the writing that I usually do, Oh, I get a bottle that's already open. And so if you're not doing what makes you happy, if you're not living your life purpose like you should be, because of circumstances, then it's not good, is it? I've got my book, my Asexuality book, and I'll start reading a little bit, but then I've got to go and do things that are more urgent, And stopping and starting is not good for me. In terms of writing, I prefer to do hours at a time so that I can get back into the story that I wrote previously. Well, it's not story, it's non-fiction. So I can get back into the non-fiction book I wrote previously and get back used to doing what I was doing. So I have to get back into the mindset of where I was before, if that makes sense. And you can't do that if you're stopping and starting all the time because you're not in flow. So I know the path I want to be on, but I think January's still going to be a rocky road where I've got to shovel through the shit and just know that there's going to be some more meteorites and obstacles, like things, diversions in my way for January. But I think after January, hopefully, the rest of the year should run more smoothly. That's what I'm thinking. That's my positive mind coming out. And I'm just thinking January is chaotic because you've got so much going on, Sandra. So many appointments to go to, so many things that are outstanding that need to be finished and done. So I think you've got to give yourself some grace, some compassion, some self-love, some kindness, some respect, and say, hey, you're doing the best you can in a really difficult time, in really difficult circumstances. No one should be judging you as like being, like you're bad or something just because you're going through a bad time. Everyone goes through bad times. It's a human thing we have to go through. It's not a nice thing, but it's a human thing. And I think sometimes with social media, the humanness is taken out. We expect people to live perfect lives and be positive 365 days a year. That isn't actually the reality. And actually, it's very damaging if you're trying to keep that up all the time, because you're not acknowledging negative feelings and emotions, which still need to be acknowledged and gone through, not repressed and suppressed, because then it does build up as trauma in the body. So I'm here in part to like release this trauma, these problems, to say, look, I'm going through this shit right now. I'm shuffling this shit. I'm going down the rocky road. It's not easy, but hopefully after this, things will smooth out more. I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And I do really believe that if you're going through really dark, difficult times or really stressful times, and you've been going through them for a while, that there is really good stuff coming your way, because I believe in the law of averages. The law of averages suggests or says that when you're going through a lot of downs, eventually you've got to go up, because to balance it out, like there's no light without dark and there's no dark without light. So if you're having dark and difficult times, or at least difficult, stressful, negative times, if you like, then it, especially if you know that you can be in a positive place in the future, then you've just got to get through these difficult times and know that there is a way in the future, and you deserve to have a life full of joy, happiness and safety and compassion and empathy. If you haven't got all that in your life at the moment, it doesn't mean to say it's a reflection of you. It's just a reflection of your circumstances. All too often people blame people and say, oh, it's that person's fault, their life's a misery or something. Like, I, in general, most of the time, am quite positive. But at the moment, I'm not as positive as I usually am, because my mind is not working as efficiently and as effectively, because I'm stressed out. I'm not getting the amount of sleep I should probably get. I'm not running at my best. My mind's going over to more dark and more negative stuff. And so therefore I need to drag it back to the more positive. I still have positive stuff within me. I still listen to positive affirmations. I'm still trying to listen to positive music. I'm still trying to watch stuff that makes me happy. And every so often, if I'm feeling really down like I was last night, I'm like, you've got to watch a movie that's going to make you laugh, even if it takes some time out of your day, because you owe it to your own health and well-being to put that first right now. So I really, really encourage you, if you've got people around you that are having really difficult time at the moment, to just give them some empathy, just give them some compassion, and do the same with yourself. Realize that nothing's perfect. It's not happy all the time. It doesn't mean to say a person needs fixing. Doesn't mean to say that every person in the world that's had some negative stuff and feels negative at times is a person that's got something fundamentally wrong with them that needs fixing. It means they're a human being that's going through shit and having shit times. That's what it means. I mean, obviously there are people that are constantly in a state of negativity in their mind. I used to be one of those years ago. I used to suffer with depression for years. Full on depression was awful, right? And I don't wish that on anyone. And if you're going through that, it's damn tough. It's like a black hole that you feel you can never get out of. And I probably wouldn't have got out of it if it wasn't for actually fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and the muscles of the body. When I discovered fibromyalgia, that I had fibromyalgia, it took me 6 months to come to terms with the fact I've got a disability for life. But then my mindset switched, and I said, if I keep talking negatively to myself, then I'll end up on crutches or in a wheelchair, like so many others with the condition, because what we put in our mind directly affects our body. So obviously, as my mind isn't as good lately, then obviously my physiology isn't going to be as good either at the moment. They have a knock-on effect, but overall, my mind has still got a lot more positivity than it did years ago. I still know what makes me happy. I still can get myself to be happy. I just know that I'm not able to facilitate as much happiness and enjoyment in moments at the moment, because of all the things I have to deal with, and I have to face up to them and deal with them whether I like it or not. And sometimes life's like that, isn't it? And it does make you more resilient. It does make you more stronger. It does make you more hard-wearing. But also, if you've got a kind of like sensitivity about you, it can really hurt you. It can feel like, is this never ending? Please just give me a break. I just want to have fun. I just want to relax. I want to have a nice time. I want to enjoy myself, right? And that time is definitely coming. And, you know, we do need to make time for those times. But if we're in a certain circumstance and we just can't make all that time that we should make for ourselves, then we have to face up to reality. We've got to shovel through the shit. We've got to go through those difficult times and then come out the other side. And we've got to have hope for our future. We've got to have compassion and kindness with ourselves. And we've got to realise that sometimes things happen in life that just cause so many difficulties. And it's not our fault. It's just circumstances sometimes. And the way life is. And also sometimes the universe kind of put you on a rocky path on purpose to test your resilience and strength. And it's hard. It's like being a gladiator, you know? It can be really tough. So if you're going through a really tough time now, know that I'm really so sorry you're going through this. I know it's really, really difficult. I know it's hard to keep your mind in a positive state. And all I'd say is just please give yourself some compassion and some love and some caringness and kindness. Just think you are a good person and you will get through this. And I hope you have a fantastic 2025. I hope this time of shoving through the shit is just to clear the path for amazing things to come for you and for me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's been very different to what I usually publish. But as always, I like to share my own asexual life journey in order to help others in theirs. If you haven't already got a copy of my Asexual Perspectives 47 Asexual Stories book, please go to Amazon and get a copy now. If you haven't got a copy of my Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, go and grab a copy on Amazon now. And also I've got a Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life. These can give really useful, helpful information and help you to understand asexuality better. I love you dearly. Thank you always for your support. And thanks for all the kindness and caringness and comments. I really appreciate it. Thanks for all the people in chat, to Daisy and Aidan. If I've not called you out in chat, I am sorry, but I really appreciate all of you being here. I think there was someone else, a Priceless Gamer. So thank you so much for being here. And there were some other people. So thank you so much. And yeah, I would like to say stay as positive as possible, even if it's difficult. And know that this time shall pass that's difficult in your life. And sometimes we do go through really, really difficult times that are kind of beyond our control. And we just need to realise that we can't control what we can't control. So all we can do is focus on the things we can control, and the stuff we can't, just shovel through that shit, you know, to get to the other side. Weather the storm. Whether that rocky road. And know I love you. Lots of love. Take care. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. Thanks so much for being here. Stay ace. Bye-bye.